That's just how she is.
Oh,
But you still can't talk going into a system.
all right. Good afternoon. Welcome to the Athens-Clarke County Board of Elections and Voter Registration regular meeting. The date is February 13th. The time is 4:36 p.m. First item on the agenda is to adopt the agenda. Chair will entertain a motion to adopt, or member may make a motion to amend.
Mr. Chair, I wish to amend the agenda.
Okay,
I guess it would be under new business. If we could discuss voter IDs issued by the Board of Elections and Registrants.
okay. Is there a second?
Second.
Sorry.
Oh, boy.
Okay,
That's what that's.
I'll read that back. Make sure we've captured it correctly. We're gonna add a second item under new business, and that is voter ID. Captured, okay.
Issued by the Board of Elections and Voter Registration.
Motion, Ms. Till, second, Ms. Fambro. All those in favor of amending the agenda, say aye.
Aye.
Okay, motion passes. With that amendment, the chair will entertain a motion to amend or to adopt the agenda as amended.
That's a move.
Okay, motion, Mr. Kadir, second, Ms. Till. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Okay. Next item on the agenda is to adopt a set of minutes. In front of you, you have January 9th. That was a special meeting. January 23rd, that was our regular monthly meeting. And February 6th was a special meeting. Please take a moment to review, and then the floor is open to make a motion to adopt.
Mr. Chair, I move that we adopt the minutes from the approve the minutes from the January 9 special meeting, January 23rd regular meeting, and February 6th special meeting.
Okay, do we have a second? Motion, Mr. Shirley, second, Ms. Till. All those in favor of approving these minutes, say aye.
Aye.
Unanimous. Next item on the agenda is public comment. Grab the sheet. First person on the list is Jacqueline Elsner. Give me one moment to pull the timer up, although I know you always stick to your time. Go ahead.
Jacqueline Elsner, 315 Caldwell Circle, Athens, Georgia. And I want to, y'all probably know the news, but the state election board today voted to retain no excuse absentee voting, which was wonderful. I know I wrote a letter to them saying how important it was. And it was a 3-2 vote. And I didn't realize the extent to which they wish to remove no excuse absentee voting. A voter would have to be 75 or older. Well, I'm 73. My husband's disabled, and he absolutely would have to vote absentee. But it's like, you want everybody 75 and younger to get out and in person vote? There's a lot of reasons why a person of senior years and of any reason would find it difficult to vote in person. So I was very relieved that the state election board approved or did not pass that suggestion. So, and I always appreciate y'all. Thank you very, very much.
Thank you.
Record time. All right, is there anyone else from the public wishing to make a comment? Okay. Next item on the agenda is the director's report. The chair recognizes the director. Find the report in your packet. She's going to the classroom.
Yeah, I can't, I don't see that I'm up there. They were saying slide down. I was like, I'm down as far as I can go. So I decided I'd come over here. So you have your report in front of you of our activity report. First of all, good afternoon. Pam is gonna go over that report with you, to highlight and if you have any questions on that report, the activity report for January 2024.
Okay, good afternoon, board.
Good afternoon.
Okay, for our total active registered voters, we have 67,358 for this month. For our total inactive voters that have no activities for 3 years, it was 13,123 voters, which gives us a total amount of voters of 82,481. And this month, we added 120 new voters. As far as cancellations concerned, we had a total of 71 cancellations, 52 being deceased and 19 of them being for felon removed. And we also had 63 voter IDs that were issued and requested. And that's all I have for you. Thank you.
Thank you.
The next item is the update on our new precinct cards. On February the 8th, we received our precinct cards from the Secretary of State's office and forwarded them directly to Berman Printing. And they, mailed those precinct cards to our voters. There were over 84,000 cards that were mailed, about $28,000 in postage that we did not factor in our budget request. But hopefully there will be something that will offset that amount. And if it doesn't, then we will go before Mayor and Commission to request contingency funding. But those cards were mailed out. And I want to inform all of our voters, even if your polling location did not change, you'll receive a card in the mail. For some reason, some voters may receive more than one card, and I'm asking and encouraging those voters to, one, either visit the My Voter page for the Secretary of State's office or call our office to find out which card is the correct card. And one of the reasons why 2 cards were mailed is because we were informed on the day that we mailed our cards that the Secretary of State's office, when they captured the addresses of our voters, they did not capture the mailing addresses and captured the residence addresses instead. So that means that some voters who had different addresses than a different mailing address than their residence address may not get their cards. We want to make sure that all voters card, and by doing that, there will be additional mailing. There will also be an additional mailing because we did find some errors after the printing was completed, and we made those corrections. And we feel that we are at least 99.99% accurate with all of our cards, making sure that all our voters at the correct polling locations. Again, we're encouraging any voter that if you receive more than one card, to contact our office. And if you don't receive a card in the mail, to contact us or visit the My Voter page. And then you can find your polling location as well as your sample ballot for the presidential preference primary. The next item is the Spanish translation project update. I wanted to inform you that we received our Vote Here signs last week. And we do have a sample of one of those signs that will be posted at all of our polling locations, starting with our advanced locations when advanced voting starts next week. We are also working on communicating with Ad Astra to get estimates for our budget to ensure that we have a sufficient amount of money for our budget to cover the expenses for full translation, and that all of that is forthcoming, and we are working on that. And just to share a little bit of the timeline, by the May primary, we will have some documentation and correspondences that will be sent to our voters. Those will be translated in Spanish. We will also have our sample ballot. Our goal is to have that ready and translated in Spanish in May. And then in November, we will have our ballots, our ballot marking devices, And the remainder of our documents that we provide will be in Spanish. We are preparing for the presidential preference primary, and one of the things I wanted to update is that our LNA was completed on February 2nd. We had no problems. We did not have any observers. We do encourage our public they're welcome to observe the process. Our next LNA will be for the May primary, but we are ready for the PPP in regard to our voting equipment and our ballots. All right, coworker training. Board, I will present to you a total of 72 workers. 24 of them are poll managers, 48 are assistant managers. That list will be provided to you for you to sign and approve so that we are ready. Many of our poll workers were trained already. Our first week of poll worker training was last week, and this week's classes were canceled, and we will reschedule those, and we'll start back up next week, and we will have all of our poll workers trained leading up to advanced voting and as well as election day. On the agenda, we do have the advanced voting locations highlighted. The first week of advanced voting, we will have Saturday voting at the office. We will have Saturday voting starting week 3. That starts on March 4th, where we will add our additional locations of Miriam Moore Community Center, the Athens-Clarke County Library, the Athens-Clarke County Cooperative Extension Office, Athens-Clarke County Tennis Center, and then Winterville Cultural Center. We will start those locations open on Saturday, March the 2nd. We will have Sunday voting at our office on March the 3rd from noon to 4. And then again on the following week, which is the last week, we will have all of our locations open, and then extended hours on Wednesday, March the 6th from 8 a.m. until 7 p.m. Then we have our absentee mailing and early ballot processing and tabulation, and Audra's going to share information on that.
Hey, everyone.
Hello.
Absentee update. As of today, the total is 391. 323 of those applications were elderly disabled, 41 what I consider regular, and 27 UOCAVA. So we're sitting at 391 process. We have not started to get back any UOCAVAs yet, but I'm expecting some soon. And as far as the open records, next number 5. For the month of January 2024, we processed 4 open records requests, and they are in your packet. Any questions?
Right. Thank you. That ends my update. Do you have any questions for me?
Go ahead.
Just a couple of questions. You mentioned we are 99.9% probably correct, and because you caught a few errors. What is the process of finding those errors?
So I have this, I'm going to say this formula that I've created that allows me to identify the specific district combos in each precinct. And when we were doing our audit, I noticed that we had some district combos and precincts that shouldn't have been. And so that was an alert. If for an example, if district combo 262 is not associated with 7C and I'm showing some voters listed for 262, that's a red flag. So my communication with Pam communication with our GIS department identified that those voters were in 7C, but should be in another precinct that has that district combo. Because one of the things that we wanted to make sure we didn't change was the combos, because the combos didn't change. Combos meaning their commission district, their school district, and their Senate district and congressional districts. None of those changed, but their precincts changed. So yeah, I use my formula of these are the combos that are supposed to be in the
And you're catching them because of your years of experience. There's no automated process that says something should be checked.
Right.
That makes sense. Second question, real quick one. Do you have a rough count on if any Spanish-speaking voters have come in and registered in the last couple of months?
I do not have that number. I don't know, Pam, have you noticed any?
Haven't noticed
Registration?
at all.
Certainly not any that walked in the office,
No.
but as far as online voter registration applications and DDSs, we don't have those.
Yeah.
But usually I do a list of registered voters by race, by precinct, and I'll have those ready for you. And I can send those to you by email. I usually don't do those until around the first week of advanced voting. Because still we're getting in applications because they were either sent to another county and hadn't been forwarded to us yet, or they were postmarked and just hadn't reached us yet. Might have gone to the Secretary of State's office first and then have to come to us. But I usually do that about the first week of advance.
No rush. And
Usually the Saturday voting is when I usually have that available. So I'll,
Race is not an indicator of language.
that's true.
no,
Ms. Tell, Ms. Ambro, have any questions?
I do not.
You got one?
Thank you. Approximately, how many do you expect? How many of our voters were affected by the mistaken? How many voters received a duplicate or an incorrect vote precinct card? Would we estimate?
roughly,
So I would say around about 10,000, it wouldn't be that many.
yes.
That we call.
Yeah, about 9 or 10,000 of a precinct, but that doesn't necessarily mean the whole precinct was affected. So about 4 or 5 precincts, but not the whole precinct. So I'm gonna say roughly maybe 1,000.
1,000 voters roughly would be affected. Okay. Still, well, of course, it's not to diminish that. Just, I was afraid it was like 75% of our voters. Okay. Interesting. Wow. Do we know, like, was it something, just the timing? Like if the precinct is a big change and that Secretary of State?
I'm gonna say everything is about timing because you have to remember that we had a November election. We couldn't really make any changes until January because of the new system that Jarvis wasn't ready to start receiving those changes. So we had to wait till Jarvis was ready. And then you have your 30-day that has to get those cards out to our voters. So it was hurry up, get it in, get it done. And then it really didn't give us enough time to audit. We didn't really have that time that we had put in our timeline. You know, that was all based on the fact that we had Jarvis and we thought Jarvis was working.
Right.
It wasn't working as properly as it should have. And, you know, it didn't work for us, wasn't ready for us, but I sure hope it's ready for the other counties that are affected by the congressional districts that have changed.
Definitely.
And thankfully, we were not one of those.
Definitely. And so I guess just for a moment, if I'm a voter who received this card, a precinct card with what is my new precinct, but it's incorrect. If I go to vote on election day for the presidential preference primary, I'll find out I have the wrong precinct and that will be a headache and everything. But it's all the more reason to encourage people to vote for the presidential preference primary, right? If I wait until May, when there's many, many more things on the ballot, it's going to be much more of a headache for me as a voter. Is that right? It's more encouragement to go vote in March to suss out these problems, get it all straightened out in time for May. Have I got that right?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Anytime you go, you know, the first time, you're gonna be solving an issue.
Right.
If there is an issue.
Right. Okay.
But yeah, we're hopeful that at least the new card gets to the voters, you know, before election day. And if it's a wrong precinct, that it's someone who will vote early and then they're voting anywhere and that could be addressed then, you know, that.
Okay.
So,
Thank you.
and most people do vote early. You know, timely, we get voters who go to a polling location and then they'll say, well, I voted here the last time. A lot of them will come to our office on election day and say, well, I voted here the last time where you voted early the last time.
Right.
You didn't vote here. So a lot of people don't even visit their polling locations on election because they vote early.
Well, okay, I'm sorry. I'm thinking about this because if I'm a voter who votes early and I have a mistaken precinct card that's erroneous, in the process of voting early, there's no reason for the clerk to tell me, hey, by the way, you're in the wrong precinct. There's no chance to check that. I just don't want for the nightmare scenario of someone who votes early all these times, except for this one time in November, shows up on the day and they get turned away at 6:55 or something like that. Is there any, like, what do we think? What's a way we can help solve that?
So if something like that happens, of course, the voter would be able to vote a provisional.
Provisional.
That's a given.
After 5 p.m.
Yes,
5 p.m.
but we do have a practice in our county that If a voter shows up at the wrong precinct, they're given a card that's called, kind of like, let me move to the front of the line. If you stood in at a precinct for 45 minutes and you find out you're at the wrong precinct, I just feel like it warrants the voter to, encouraged to go to their polling location, but not have to stand in line at another place. So we have this little card that we give them that lets them move to the front of the line, and they're to contact the manager when they get there to say, I have this card, and they show them the card and they allow them to go to the front of the line. So they're not standing in line again.
Okay, thank you. Thank y'all.
And also, when they come in to register to vote, they have to verify their information when we turn the poll pad around. So they'll see if the information is correct before they sign. So then that will also give us an opportunity to make that update.
Good. Okay, thank you.
Yeah, the question I had is basically been addressed, but I'm just a little unclear as to how the mistake happened. Did we give the Secretary of State wrong data, or did they pull incorrect data?
No, it was clerical error. So when we first started entering the information into Jarvis, it wasn't clear on how the process was supposed to be done. So there were some voters who were touched that shouldn't have been touched, or vice versa. And so once we figured out, number one, what was the process of how to get it done, after speaking with some of the liaisons that work, not the state liaisons, the folks that are part of the committee of the Jarvis Committee. After speaking with them, we got full explanation of how to use I'm going to say the redistricting process. Because what happens if you change a voter who's registered and you're changing a street, if it affects voters, you have to go in redistricting process to actually move those voters. You can't just move them when you're moving a precinct. You have to go through redistricting. So there was not really clear explanation on how to do the redistricting process in Jarvis. It wasn't clear.
Shocking.
So after we found this out, I just happened to just say, okay, y'all, I had to say something. And when I did, that's when we found out, well, we really did get the instructions on how to do this. So I called one of the liaisons from the committee, and we had a conversation over the phone, and she walked me through and also walked Pam through how to identify the voters. And then once you identify them, if you have to go into redistricting, what that process is. And when we finally got that, then we were able to go back and fix those. And so when we did that, we were able to fix the ones that we had changed, but we did not see the ones that changed that shouldn't have changed. So that's why we had some that had errors.
Okay. Any other questions on the director's report?
And I might add, Jarvis, is a new system, and that you guys are part of the buzz, and so you see some of the issues that people are having.
System that our Secretary of State, who's an engineer by trade, rolled out without testing, that system, right? Yeah.
It's a work in progress, and we're.
Okay. Anything else on the director's report? All right. Next item on the agenda is old business. And the only item under old business is follow-up on board retreat. Well, we had a retreat last week. Yeah, it says today, but. And I'll just say that that was one of the best team building things I've been to in a long time. It was very productive. And so I felt like we walked away with something. There wasn't a lot of silly games. We actually did some real work and team building, so. Thank you for putting that together with Joseph.
Yeah, Joseph.
That's for new business number one.
Oh, okay, yeah. The floor is open if anyone wants to make any comments on the retreat.
Very thorough and organized.
Thorough, organized, yeah.
I really liked it because I don't like to go to do nothing meetings. And I found that as Lynn said, very productive. I think that we all walked away with a better understanding of one another, and I think this is gonna help us with anything that we do in the future.
Yeah, I just want to add to what you said. I think would like to commend Joseph and Mary Martin. I think they were just simply incredible. They made sure everyone got the input, put together the teams. I think we got a much better, I think we all had an understanding of what the staff has to go through. This particular time, I think it's sunk in a little more that what you go through. Sometimes we just take it for granted and think, hey, that's the manager's job to find the money and the commission's job to give us a direction. But I think we, at least on my part, I'd say I'm going to try and be a little more sensitive to what needs to come down the pipe.
We'll see the notes compiled. I believe, didn't Mr. D'Angelo said he was gonna compile them to us, because I know the last exercise, especially for me, I meant to get a picture of that, because I want to try and remind myself of the things that each side, each group of us put on that wall. So keep that in mind.
Okay. Anybody else?
Can I add something?
You may.
I feel that during this retreat, we felt more at ease. We maybe they engendered that because we know they're as well. We worked with them so long and they work well together. And we felt more at ease to express ourselves and talk freely.
Read.
Well, the process they put together allowed us to do that. And that was a little different.
It was their personality.
Last year, well, certainly, no doubt. But last year, the process wasn't there to be able to put it together in
I
that form.
agree. I agree.
Cool. All right, we'll move on. Next item on the agenda is new business. And the first item of new business is the approval of pool managers and assistant managers per OCGA 21-2-90. And Chair recognizes the director.
Yes.
Oh, yeah, sorry.
Oh, right, she's having the camera.
Okay,
There we go.
so yes, so you have a list of 72 co-workers, 24 managers, 48 are assistant managers, and these are the ones who will be trained, if not trained already, before the election, and we're asking your approval to appoint those so that they may serve in the capacity of manager and assistant manager or coordinator or assistant, is what we refer to them as, for the May 12th presidential preference primary.
March 12th. You said May.
March, I get my.
May 21st, that's why.
Yep.
I do really get my M's mixed.
Is there like a transcript or something that shows which courses of training they've completed? Because I get what we're doing here, but I really have no info to, at your word, rather than
Yeah,
being like,
That's a good idea. So in the future, we'll have a transcript that says that they were trained on this, this, and this. But from my memory, one is laws, one is customer service, equipment, provisional voting, and emergency crisis kind of like training.
so those are like 5 different trainings they go to, or is it like modules during a?
It's,
One
I'm
big-
gonna say it's modules in one big training, and then there is a online training that's also required.
Oh, okay.
So we'll start attaching a transcript to say that this is what they're trained in.
Could you,
That's a great idea.
I'd like to see it at least on that March 12th meeting.
Yes,
Can you just
we sure will.
prepare that?
Sure.
Otherwise,
Great idea.
unless there are no questions, I will entertain a motion to approve.
Amen.
I'll second.
Okay, motion was Till,
Charlie, the motion.
second, Mr. Shirley. Is there any discussion, questions, comments? All right, read the motion, then we'll vote.
Motion by Ms. Till to approve the list of poll managers and assistant managers for the March 12th presidential preference primary as recommended by the chair.
Right. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, ayes have it. Your managers and assistant managers are approved. Next item on the agenda, as amended, is voter IDs. Voter ID, we kept it simple. The chair recognizes Ms. Till. And we'll go from there.
Retreat this year
Can I interrupt? I'm so sorry. When was it amended?
We've
at the beginning of the meeting.
Okay, I just didn't get a copy of it, so I didn't know what was, so there was a vote to amend the, okay, I apologize.
At the retreat that we had February 6th, we were able to discuss many things among ourselves that probably were lingering. Maybe we didn't even realize a lot of these things until Joseph and Mary began to these things out. And one of the things that came up was about the voter IDs that are issued from and through the Board of Registrars here. So Ms. Audra brought the fact forward that even during COVID, they had a sign on the front door that they were closed due to the COVID. And people were pressing on the glass, banging on the glass, calling them on the phone to open up because I want an ID. But nobody's voting, so we know that the staff does the best they can with the numbers and the size of the spaces and the different facilities that they use. And it seemed to me that there has to be some other way for people to get an ID. I know they could get a driver's license ID, but these should be only for voting. And the director has told me in conversation we had just a bit ago that it states on the ID that it is for voting only, but that other vendors, facilities, entities allow people to use these cards for whatever purpose that they're utilizing them. And it seems that in the language in the book, I find it sort of, it says you can, but then it says you can't, and kind of, you know, it's like legal jargon usually says. So I don't know what we need to do to alleviate the pressure that's only on Clarke County, because the other counties, I've been told, don't issue these things. We had 68 so far, if I remember looking at the documentation here. But the other counties don't do this. It's only Clarke counties, and it seems like mayor and commissioners have a hand in allowing this or propagating it. I'm not sure what the term would be. So how would we help the staff? Do we need to petition the legislators? I mean, does anyone have suggestions or something that might help change this? Because I think it should be just for voting. I mean, it's not like a ID you get to go get beer or cigarettes. I hear crickets.
So what is your, I'm just a little unclear as to what I hear what you're saying, but what is the ask?
How do we, if possible, change where Clarke County, because all of us have to use the same machinery, whatever one county uses, everybody else has to use the same, all through the different counties. So why is Clarke County allowed to, can you better express what y'all do with the IDs than I can?
Yes, the point that you made about Clarke County being the only county who issues these IDs, all counties are required to issue the voter IDs. But some counties, most, don't issue them because their voters don't require them. If I can say this, when my first day on the job, it was shocking because my former county, I had issued one voter ID in my whole 7 years that we were issuing IDs, one. And on my first day, within an hour, we had issued 4 voter IDs. I was like, wait a minute, we don't even have an election going on. Well, when you look at the code, it doesn't say that you can only issue IDs when there's an election going on. It just says you have to issue the voter IDs. So there are counties who don't issue, they have a policy that they do not issue voter IDs unless there's an election going on. And they bluntly say it at our conferences. That's the only time we issue voter IDs. And again, during COVID, our office was shut down and I was sent an email saying that voters needed to be able to get a voter ID. So we needed to be open so that voters could do that. So we had a sign on our door that said that if you required a voter ID, then you would have to call the office, which we were in the office and came back to the office for that reason. And then the voter would call and then we would open the door and allow them to come inside and issue them a voter ID. We had a case just today that was a final order with the Attorney General's office where a voter ID was applied for under someone else's name. So it was a violation and it was prosecuted here in Athens-Clarke County. And then the state election board again, like I said, had a final order through the Attorney General's office for a cease dismiss and to offer a reprimand to. That is not the only voter ID that has been issued to the wrong voter under somebody else's name. That's not the first one. So it's being abused. And it does say on the voter ID that it's for voting purposes only. But we do have people who are accepting or entities who are accepting those IDs for other reasons. For instance, check cashing. I do know of 2 checks that were cashed just last year. One was a government check and one was at a check cashing company. They were all turned over to the authorities and they were cashed with a voter ID.
And it was not long ago, we were in a hearing with a felon who sent his address as his parole officer. And she came forward to protest that, to have him removed because he should not have a card. So people are abusing these and it just seems like the staff seem to upset. I don't mean to sound like I'm trying to chide them or anything, but they had other things to do than issue IDs that want to use them for check cashing or other purposes. I mean, for voting, if that's what they're for, then that's what they're for. But it just seems like there's got to be something better.
I saw your hand up a long time ago. Do you still have a comment?
Yeah, I'm trying to gather my thoughts. But for me, maybe the first question is, why are we different? Is there a rule in place? Because is there a rule in place that makes us different? And what is the rule? And who made the rule? So I had several questions, but for me, I'd like to know that.
Yeah, so the code section, it's 21-2417. And it explains the voter ID process and it tells you the different criteria to receive a voter ID. One of the things is a document that shows a voter's date of birth. Well, when somebody fills out a voter registration form, what are they putting on there? The date of birth. And this was a discussion that was in one of our conferences, I believe it was 2011. And the state election board investigator was at our conference. And this was a conversation that, that was raised at the podium. And we were told that voter registration application has everything in it that would support the information on a voter ID. And so as a person registers to vote, that form becomes a document that allows a person to have a voter ID.
But does the code say that? Some
So
rules-
can I speak to that? Because I have it pulled up. So it's actually 21-2-417.1. And it's subsection A is the key point. So I don't know where other counties are coming from. And obviously I have not had any chance to research this extensively since I just became aware of it, but, or aware of the issue. But subsection A specifically says each county board of registrars shall provide at least one place in the county at which it shall accept applications for and issue Georgia voter identification cards to registered Georgia electors, which shall under state law be valid only for purposes of voter identification, et cetera. And it discusses that no fees shall be charged or collected. So I think it's very clear that whatever other communities may be doing about not issuing a policy, not issuing these, it appears to be in violation of state law. And so I would certainly not recommend that we make any changes.
I was wondering, could we just make any changes?
It would have to,
legally through the legislature that would
I think that Ms. Fambro's
question.
question is valid because Charlotte had mentioned she received an email with a directive to issue these. So I guess clarification on
But
who
the
that came
code says
from
that
and-
they have to have documentation. And I don't know that it specifically says filling out an application is documentation, because it specifically says a driver's license, a birth certificate, a passport, a certificate of naturalization. It has documentation there that's to be accepted. It doesn't mention anything about an application.
if I can speak to that, I think you're referring to section 417, not 417.1. And so 417.1 says that the application, and this is subsection D, says the application for a Georgia voter identification card shall elicit the information required under subsection C. Now that is the information that's actually going to be included. It appears on the card itself, which is full legal name, address of residence, birth date, date identification card was issued, sex, height, weight, eye color, county where it was issued, and any other information required by the state election board. And it goes on to say that the application shall be signed and sworn to by the applicant. Any falsification or fraud in the making of the application shall constitute a felony offense relating to the offense of false swearing. So it doesn't say that you have to provide some of those specific types of documents that you were referring to. It goes on in subsection E that says the board of registrars shall require presentation and verification of the following information for issuing a Georgia voter identification card to a person, which includes 4 things. 1, a photo identity document, except that a non-photo identity document is acceptable if it includes both the person's full legal name and date of birth, documentation showing the person's date of birth, evidence that the person is registered to vote in the state, and documentation showing the person's name and address of principal residence. So that's all it requires.
So I don't have to be a citizen to vote.
You have to be registered to vote in the state, and that's,
I can register, but I don't have to have any documentation proving that I'm a citizen.
to be registered to vote in the state of Georgia, I think you would have to be a citizen.
Isn't it a felony to falsify
It is.
whether you are or not? So what I would say is we're not the police here. Charlotte's staff is following the law
Right.
and that's where it is. I mean, code section says she has to do it.
But this
And
would
if
be
someone-
legislators need to change.
That's correct.
Clarify.
Yes.
And
That was the point of me bringing this up, is to hash it out, get ideas as to, people shouldn't be allowed to vote if they're not citizens. We don't have a country if we don't have secure vote.
yes,
Yeah, strictly if it is used fraudulently, is it revoked, the voter ID?
yes.
It is revoked for good.
I mean, it's not revoked, but it's considered null. I mean, it's voided. Same, kind of the same thing. We send it to the state election board, them to go through the proceedings and investigate it to make sure that it is accurate, that what we reported. And then, of course, actions are taken that way. When I
Have you
can,
had many or any that happened? Other than that fellow?
Less than 5. And I'll say this because when I came to Athens-Clarke County, the environment was not received very well in the office, that we're gonna follow the law. And so now it's established. We're following the law. And if somebody's in violation, we'll turn them over to the state election board. And we've had people come in constantly, the same people, issue it. Nothing said, issue it. They fill out a vote and they are required to fill out another voter registration form, just in case something changed. Because I want it to be up to date, and this information is based on the ID that we're presenting today. And so that's the way, that's the environment that we have in the office. And the only question we are to ask the voter is, are they a resident of Athens-Clarke County? We don't ask them, do they have any other ID? That's for them to fill out on the form, because there's an affidavit that they have to sign. No conversations, because what I don't want to happen is for a voter to walk out and say that we talked them out of receiving a voter ID.
Yeah, clearly following the law.
So,
Yeah, my
That's the only
only question would be is, I would like to see some statistics on on how many of these people are prosecuted successfully. And if they are not, then maybe the law needs to change. But if they are successful, then maybe, hey, it's working.
everyone that we have sent over has been. But not me.
All right, thank you, everyone. Next item on the agenda are announcements, but before that, thank you. I had a question. Do we need to appoint vote review panel for March?
Not quite ready yet.
Okay.
Just trying to see about how many, ballots she's gonna have, so that we don't have people just sitting around. So I'll have it.
And is the president, it's not, so you wouldn't, if it was a partisan, you see what I'm saying, but it's not, because it's two different.
It's partisan and nonpartisan because City of Winterfield has a question
Oh,
on the ballot.
okay.
So
So we have two different.
So you need the board to provide,
you don't actually have to appoint anybody if I could get 2 of you guys to volunteer.
I volunteer and I'll even show up this time.
okay.
Tell all my secrets.
Can you do it?
Yeah, it's only on the day of the election.
March 12th, right?
So you may have to show up one other day, depending on Ms. Taylor and what she wants to, how she wants to tabulate. She may want to early tabulate, or she just may want to do it all election day. So I'll let you guys know.
Okay, but you do not need, are you gonna reach out to the parties and? Okay. Let either one of us know if you have trouble.
I don't need approvals for the party, just the
Right,
BOE reps.
Okay, cool.
You got those though. You got the party appointees, right? You got the party appointees, right, already? So
Okay, great. All right. Next item are announcements. There's a list of announcements. Mr. Secretary, would you read them this time?
Happily. Monday, February the 19th is the first day to vote early, absentee in person for the March 12th presidential preference primary election. Friday, March the 1st is the last day to apply for an absentee ballot in that March 12th presidential preference primary election. Monday, March the 4th is the first day to qualify as a candidate in the May 2024 and November 2024 elections. Friday, March the 8th is the last day to vote early in person for March 12th presidential preference primary election. That same day at noon is the deadline to qualify as a candidate in the May and November elections. Tuesday, March the 12th is the last day to vote in the presidential preference primary election.
Hold on, what?
I wanted to say something. I'm sorry. I just thought about something. I wanted to let our voters know that they will be receiving a new Athens-Clarke County I voted sticker, early vote
Oh,
sticker.
right, yeah.
And we do have a picture of that sticker.
Yeah.
So we're excited
Yeah.
about that, and we got another project forthcoming for next year. Something similar, but yeah.
Did we print 78,000 stickers?
She brought
We
samples.
got,
We got so many of them.
Oh, my goodness.
78,000, what we got?
All right, go ahead.
That's great.
Here.
So, wow, that looks good. So,
That will be displayed at all of our precincts, I'm sorry, at the, at advanced voting precincts, so they'll know that they're getting something new
Okay.
this time.
I like that color combination.
Tuesday, March the 12th is the last day to vote in the presidential preference primary election. Please make sure you know your voting precinct. You might have a new voting location, especially in light of what we learned tonight. Double check your information on the Georgia My Voter page. Tuesday, March the 12th at 4:30 p.m. we have our next regular meeting right here. And Monday, March the 18th, we have a special meeting, time and location to be determined for certification. Unless I'm wrong about that date.
Training room
Location.
available?
I'm wrong.
And find out.
Our March the 12th meeting
Maybe we can meet in that building somewhere.
will be at 2555 Lexington Center
The 12th.
on the 12th.
On the announcements, as well as Friday, March 1st being the last day to take absentee ballot applications for March. Monday, the 4th is also the first day to request an absentee ballot for the May primary. So one ends on that Friday and another one starts at Monday.
Keeps on going.
And the deadline for May is May 10th.
This thing.
You
Yeah.
and President's sticker game.
You're my joke.
I did.
All right. Quiet down there.
Yes, sir.
Water stickers.
Chair will entertain a motion to adjourn.
I so moved.
Motion, Ms. Fambro, second, Ms. Still. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Thank y'all very much.
5:28. Yep.
Okay, you do a special call then.
Very-